Show.
This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm pleased to have the Human League on the show. Phil Oakey, Joanne Catherall, and Suzanne Sully. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Now you're touring. You're here, actually going to be touring here in Orange County. You're going to be here on the 24th at the Grove in Anaheim.
We are, aren't we?
And,
yeah.
How's the tour been for you so far?
It's been really good so far. It's we're getting a good response, really.
We haven't been to America since about 1998 to perform live, so it's sort of been a bit, we were unsure of what sort of reaction we'd get, but it's been fabulous.
The fans love you guys, so...
We've got an amazing core of fans now. It's really weird. We're showing up places and there's little bunches of people that know all the words and cheer everyone else up.
Are you seeing a younger audience also?
I think so. I certainly thought so. When we played Los Angeles, it was really young.
Really young, surprisingly.
Really young. To the point that we met a fan on the way home back to the hotel who stopped us and said, "You moulded me into the person that I wasn't." He was only about 20, you know.
I'm sure you guys are considered almost the Led Zeppelin of what you do. You guys pretty much started that, or gave birth to it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the electroclash movement?
I think it's really interesting. It's great that, I think there was a little period of years when people didn't know if synthesizers were just a flash in the pan and fashionable, but now there's so many bands doing the stuff again that I think it just proves that we were doing the right thing.
And are there some bands that you guys have heard from the electroclash sound that you like, that are new?
Well, one of the places we've not played is Detroit, and my favourite American band at the moment is called Adult from Detroit, who are doing really good Depeche Mode sort of stuff, really good. They've got their own label, which is Ersatz Audio.
Now, have you heard of a band called Ladytron?
Absolutely, seen them.
I think that they owe a lot to you guys.
I can't work it out. They remind me. Their remix is like Visage.
I think they're more like Duran Duran.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
But they're so much better live than on record. They're so solid live. You know, if they get a really good producer, they're going to be a big band.
How did you meet Martin Ware and Ian Marsh to form what was to become the original Human League?
I moved to Sheffield when I was about 15 and went to school with Martin, and he was in a young person's theatre group with Ian. They had a band, and when the third person left, they just asked me to step in, more or less because I was tall. That was it.
And is it true you were a hospital porter at the time?
I was. I did 4 years as a hospital porter, which is an orderly over here, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you ever feel at the time that, God, I can't wait to get over, not do this anymore and make it as a rock star?
No, I like being a porter. There was no money in it. That was the bad thing. But none of us ever expected to be in a group, did we? No. It was all accidental. I think that might be why we've lasted, nearly 25 years now, because none of us ever thought we should be pop stars. And then one day we sort of were.
So Martin Ware and Ian Marsh, they went on to form Heaven 17.
They did, yeah.
And what did you think of that?
Well, we were really terrified. There was myself and a guy called Adrian who used to show slides for us.
Adrian Wright.
Adrian Wright. So there were two of us. We couldn't play any instruments, and we just thought it was all over. We had to go out and recruit to get a group because we had a tour booked, which was luckily when we found Joanne and Susan here, and we found a bass player at the same time and moved on.
How did you get your deal with Fast Products?
With Fast Products, we just sent a tape off. They had a band in Sheffield called 2.3 who were our champions, really.
Okay.
They had signed to the label, and they sent a tape off and they just put it out. But that was a time of independent records in Britain. Everyone was putting records out.
Tell me about the Virgin deal.
I think we got the Virgin deal simply by working live. It's funny, we were talking to Simon, our manager, on the way over here about what people will do now that music's going on the internet and things, and I think people will have to go back to playing live. Yeah. We lived for about 18 months just playing live, but we had a very successful tour with Susie and the Banshees, then quite a successful tour with Iggy Pop around Europe, and we were signed on the basis of that.
The first incarnation of Human League, what was the reproduction and travelogue time? What were some highlights of that time for you?
They were lowlights, really, because independent record companies were so well thought of. When we signed to a major, we signed to Virgin for those, and we really sold very few records. We went from being stars of the indie scene to almost nothing. We nearly failed until we did Dare.
Why in October of 1980 did Ware and Marsh decide to leave the Human League?
I think that the manager that we had at the time, who was also the guy from the record label, Bob Last, decided that there were just too many egos in the band. I was a bit of a big head, Martin Ware was a bit of a big head, and we just wanted to do different things.
Now, emotionally, where were you at that time? I mean, when they decided, did they come to you and say, "Hey, we're out of here"? Or...
No, Martin just stopped turning up, and we were gonna have a meeting to say why he didn't turn up, and he didn't turn up to the meeting, and that was it. It was all over.
It was all over. Okay,
Yeah.
but there's no hard feelings nowadays with them, or is there?
No, it took about 15 years to get over that.
Yeah, I know how that is.
Yeah.
And so then, at that point, you decided like we were going to carry on with Human League. And is it true that they sold you the name for 1% of all future royalties, band royalties?
No, 1% of the next album. They got 1% of Dare, which was reasonable. It was their group in the first place, so that was all right.
Now you recruit Joanne and Suzanne for vocals, and you spot them dancing at the Crazy Daisy Disco.
Yeah.
Out having a night out in a nightclub, the same way we did every week.
Now, were you drowning your sorrows because of the band breakup at that time and just happened to see them?
No, we were out trying to recruit.
Really?
We had a tour of Europe booked, which we would be sued for, and we owed Virgin Records £100,000. So we had to form a group very, very quickly. And we just wanted someone with a high voice, really. And instead, we got 2 people.
What a great motivator. You're going to get sued. So,
Yeah.
So you were really motivated to go out there.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Now, what did you think when you were approached?
Oh, I don't know. We just didn't think we'd be able to go because we were very young, and we thought our parents would say no. But it was different. Now we have a lot of things like Pop Idol and stuff like that. So people's parents think, oh yes, if you say you want to become a singer. It was very different then. The whole music business was really frowned upon by sort of the older generation. And so we just thought, well, we're not going to be able to go. But eventually we persuaded them.
You persuaded your parents.
We persuaded them.
Cool. And then how did you know they were right for the group?
He didn't really.
You just said,
I
hey,
don't think it mattered at that
here are
stage.
these hot chicks.
No, I don't think it wasn't like that at all. I think Philip, he was originally looking for one person, and then he saw Joanne and I together, and he realised that, you know, 2 of us together, who were obviously best friends, could look after each other. So it was never a case of, oh, you know, just get them. He didn't know that we could sing or anything.
We did a little audition. I played some notes on a piano, but I can't sing, so, you know.
You can't play a piano either.
How long do you guys work on the material before you actually head out on the road?
Oh, we had 1 day's rehearsal.
Yeah.
1 day's rehearsal. Philip told, when we met Philip, I think we had 10 days before the actual tour started. And in that process of 10 days, Joanne and I both had to get our parents and school to get around the idea that it was going to be okay. And then we had 1 day at a theatre in London to rehearse, and then we went to Europe. We were terrible. We were truly
Really?
awful.
Oh, we were rotten.
We were rotten. We were really bad.
but-
We got bottled off stage in
Really?
lots of places in Germany. Oh, yes.
Now, so by the end of the tour, by the end of this tour, are you opening for anybody? Is this a tour just where you guys went out on your own?
That was just us, yes.
Okay, and so by the end of this tour, do you guys feel like, hey, we're warm now, we're getting hotter?
Not
as far as a
really.
group, you still were a little...
I think we just spent 6 weeks having a party around Germany, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just all sort of became friends. And when we got back from the tour, we just used to meet up for coffee and stuff. And things just really evolved, as opposed to it being a big plan, wasn't it?
So you guys really feel you solidified after the tour, once you got in the studio and started working on new materials, when you solidified more as a band?
Well, we worked, myself and my partner and the bass player, then went and started making an album, and we thought there was something missing. So we called in Joanne and Susan. At first we recorded them at home and took the tapes down, and then we took them down, and it just wasn't going to be the same band without Joanne and Susan.
How did you hook up with producer Martin Rushent for the Dare album?
I think that was just luck, really.
I think that was just luck.
It so happened he had been working on some electronic stuff. He'd done a guy called Pete Shelley from the Buzzcocks, but he'd also done Visage, who were a big electronic group in Britain, and he just loved computers and synthesizers, so we were just lucky to find him.
Cool. And how much do you feel he shaped the sound of Dare?
Fantastically.
A lot. He was a drummer. He was a drummer, and he put a lot of the rhythm down in it. You know, that he was like, when you see the album Love and Dancing, there's a load of pictures on the back, and we put all the pictures of all the people that had worked with us, because people only ever see the face of the Human League. You know, normally they only ever see the three of us, and there are so many people behind the scenes that actually mould it into what it is. And at that time, we could not have done it without Martin. It would just have been impossible.
Wow, it is about luck. It really is.
Yeah.
So now, Dare goes on to sell 5 million copies worldwide with hits like Don't You Want Me and Love Action. What was that time like for you guys? What were some highlights from that time?
It was sort of unpleasant, really, wasn't it?
Really?
Well, no, it wasn't unpleasant until after Don't You Want Me came out. Up until then, it was all right. We still sort of went out and did all the normal things, but we had the added thing of that we were going on TV as well and doing sort of pop story things, I think. But then when Don't You Want Me came out and it was so big, then people sort of took against us, I think, a bit.
Really?
And started, if we went out to a club, people would throw things at us. So then we spent 2 years never going out anywhere.
Some diehard old school Human League fans that didn't like the direction that the new group was taking?
I think that I think parts of that, but I think that at the time, certainly in Britain was going through a really, really terrible time of unemployment, of businesses closing down, of a terrible Tory government, of people being completely disillusioned. And suddenly, you know, they need a target. They go out, they're really miserable, and they see us and we look like a target because they've seen us on TV the day before. And I think that's all it was. Now, it's a completely different thing. At home now, everyone loves us. People come up to us when we've been on TV and things and shake our hands and say, I'm really glad you're doing well, because we stayed in Sheffield and we lived there all the time. We never moved away. It's just very different. It was a very different time then. I mean, even though I didn't like it, you understood why people did it, because they were just disillusioned. It was a terrible time.
Well, people forget how tough punk was, and it didn't really come over here much. But really, seriously, you were getting cans thrown at you on stage. The people that liked you were throwing things at you. They were very strange times.
And setting fire to your trousers.
Yeah, setting fire to your trousers. There was a bit of that.
Yeah, I know. I guess Henry Rollins said being spit on was considered a compliment.
Yes.
Disgusting.
By the punks.
Yes. Well, we just ended up at the end of that, didn't we? So it wasn't so bad, but especially after you joined. But we did a tour of Europe with Iggy Pop, and they were burning British flags in front of us. You know, it was really amazing.
I can imagine the Iggy Pop crowd.
Yeah,
that's completely out of control.
It was an experience, though.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Now, who came up with the film concept for the Don't You Want Me video?
Steve Barron, the director. We've had very little. I think the majority of groups have very little input in their video, because what happens is your record company say to you, you've got to make a video next Thursday. We got this director, have a look at these storyboards. But what happened was the director was a friend of Adrian's who was in the group, and he came up with the idea, and we just sort of went up. We didn't know anything. We were a load of bozos from Sheffield. We didn't know what we were doing.
Well, the problem is that in 2 days you're going to spend half the money that you've just spent making an album, so you give it to a professional.
And it's pretty frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, and boring at the same time.
So you were bored by the whole music video process?
But when there's 6 people in a group, you end up sitting around in a caravan or a Winnebago for a very, very long time because they're filming everyone else. It just gets a bit boring.
Yeah. And there was still never that feeling while you're sitting around that, hey, our dream is becoming a reality.
It wasn't our dream.
So this is weird.
That's what you've got to understand.
This is a weird dichotomy.
It wasn't our dream. None of the 3 of us wanted to be in a group. We're all in this group by accident, and it's sort of, I think the whole thing took us by surprise, because we were all coming out of that punk thing. So you weren't supposed to be big mega pop stars?
Well, no, it's just hard for me to understand how...
Because everyone wants to be famous now, and it wasn't like that then.
Well, we
loved the music. We loved the music, and that we loved people like Roxy Music and David Bowie. That, you know, it was a whole lifestyle thing, and we just loved the music. That was what was important. The actual going on TV ended up being a bit of a drag after a bit. But, you know, it was exciting and things, but like Joanne said, it wasn't our ambition. We were both going to go to university, and we never wanted to be in a group.
You're happy with it, though?
It's great now. I think we've been doing it so long that we've actually learned how to do it properly. We do lots of touring, so we get to interact with the people that actually buy records, and I think people generally have just come to accept us as part of the music scene. You know, they know now that we're not going to go away. We've been doing it so long, so we're not a flash in the pan. And I think we feel more comfortable with it now than we did sort of in the early 80s.
Phil, how would you describe your songwriting relationship with Ian Burden, Joe Callis, and original member Adrian Wright?
Well, competitive. I think that was part of the reason that Dare came together quite quickly and well, was that we would form little partnerships and then change them around. And whoever you're working with, you were in a rivalry with the other two who were also working there. And sometimes we'd come in and hear something that Joe and Adrian written and say, God, that's fantastic. We've got to do something as good as that. And we really tried hard. I mean, one of the saddest things of the group to me is that I'm the only one now that writes lyrics, for instance. All the lads that wrote lyrics have now left because I just think it got too tough for them.
And how did the Fascination EP come about?
We were working with Martin, and I think what had happened was we were fully intending to go in and start another album, but Martin sort of had a nervous breakdown, didn't he?
I think so.
It wasn't really working at that stage, so we took it to someone else to finish producing it, and at that stage it was very different to how it is now. You could bring a single out that didn't go on an album, and we had in Britain, we had Mirror Man came out before Fascination, and that just came out like a year before it, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then we didn't do anything else for another year, and then we brought out Fascination. Neither of them have ever been on albums apart from greatest hits albums.
These were part of a Martin Rushent produced situation that never came to fruition. Yeah,
Martin just decided that he didn't want to work with us or something. It all, everyone thinks they're good. If you have a few hits, you know, although one day you'll think, oh, we had those hits because I'm really good. And then another day you'll think, oh, I never did anything at all. And you get really, really quite strange in the head around that time.
It's very, very easy to get sucked into the whole you're fantastic business, and I think we managed just about to not let that happen to us. I think other people that were involved with the group didn't, and I think that was part of Martin's problem. I think that there were so many people telling him, and rightly so, because he was fantastic, but he started to believe it to an extent that he just didn't really do much work anymore, did he?
It did end up in being things like we would drive the couple of hundred miles to his studio, and he'd be off having dinner, like with another pop star or something.
Yeah, you can't deal with that. No, time is money, especially in the music business.
Yeah,
and we're all running out of it. Now, how did the collaboration with disco producer extraordinaire Giorgio Moroder come about for the Electric Dreams soundtrack?
Well, I started working with Giorgio Moroder through Steve Barron, who directed our videos, went on to the feature film Electric Dreams, and they just wanted a big song for the end. So I wrote the lyrics, Giorgio wrote the tune, and we had a bit of a hit. I mean, Giorgio wrote the blueprint for the Human League, really. A lot of people thought that we were a sort of a post-Kraftwerk group. We weren't really. We were a post-Donna Summer group.
Okay.
Our inspiration was Donna Summer.
And you know, Keith Forsey played drums for Donna Summer.
Yeah.
He was a great drummer, and then he went on to be a great producer, producing Billy Idol and so on and so forth.
Someone else as well, didn't they? Another of Giorgio's drummers became really big.
Yes, but I can't remember.
No, I can't. Harold Faltimore.
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right
Beverly
on.
Hills man, isn't it? Yeah.
Now, here's a mystery to me. In '85, you start working with Duran Duran producer Colin Thurston.
Yeah.
What happens with those sessions?
They got destroyed.
Yeah.
Literally, as I recall. No, it just wasn't. The group was going through a very, very bad time. We were working with someone that wasn't really right for the group in that incarnation of the group. It was a disaster. We didn't have enough songs, and had it not been for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis stepping in, you wouldn't be sat here talking to us, in my opinion. It would have folded at that stage, because everything that could possibly go wrong was in the process or had gone wrong.
Now, when you worked on Hysteria with Chris Thomas and Hugh Padgham, now you decided not to tour to promote that record, correct?
I think it was more a case of there were members of the band that refused to go on tour, so we didn't do it.
Okay.
It was a mistake.
Yeah.
We should always tour.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter as a band.
It certainly is now. Touring wasn't that big then, was it?
I don't think the record company had very much confidence that we could do it either. They were not going to put up, enough money for us to do it.
To be honest, we weren't very good.
We were crap.
We were not a good live band until maybe 1995.
Yeah, but you never get to be a good live band unless you
Unless
do
you
it.
play live,
And the only time we came a good live band was when people actually had the confidence to give us the money and say, there you go and do it.
But we were determinedly unprofessional. We didn't want to be good, did we?
No.
Because we came out of punk, we eschewed professionalism, and we tried to be shambolic. And it was only 10 years after that we decided we should learn the craft and do it well.
Ever meet up with any of the Joy Division?
Well, Factory Records that they were on and Fast Records sort of worked with the same people. And I think Joy Division's first record came out on Fast, the same as ours as well. Yeah, we ran into them.
Because I mean, when you hear some of that old stuff, because you keep on mentioning punk, it sounds very stripped down and very raw, but at the same time, you feel the emotion of what's going on in the music. So you're saying that you guys kind of had that attitude.
I thought we were the electronic version of Joy Division. They were the more traditional instrument type, and we were the electronic version, The release
of Secrets in 2001. Tell me how that came about. Tell me about Toy, all the fun stuff that goes along with that.
We'd had an album called Octopus out in 1996, was it? And then that record company sort of didn't actually fold, but as good as they got rid of all the managing director, all the staff, the people that had signed us. And we sort of just worked on touring, did a tour over here with Culture Club, and sort of survived that way while you were in the studio writing stuff. And then we just started taking it round places, and they showed, it was part of Chrysalis. What were they called? Papillon.
Yeah.
It was a new part of Chrysalis, and what their idea for the record company was that they would only sign established artists. They didn't want to go with new people that they would have to break, and because established artists were having problems getting deals anywhere else in Britain, it was sort of ideal for us. We met up with them, and it was them that suggested the Toy people.
Yeah.
Now tell me about this Toy. Is it a person? Is it a group of people?
Three men.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
three guys who'd worked with Depeche Mode and Björk.
Okay, and what's their approach? How did their approach differ?
Well, they come into the studio, they all put a pair of headphones on and completely ignore you for 6 weeks.
They were actually,
Really?
they were quite possibly the first group of producers that we've worked with that normally when you meet a producer, they come in and they say, I know exactly what the Human League is and I don't want to change it. And then they completely go about changing everything, and it makes it sound really not like us. Whereas they were the first producers that came in and said, we know exactly what the Human League are like, we're not going to change them. We've all got bells going off thinking, oh God, no, we've heard this so many times. But they didn't. And they actually kept it very true to what the Human League was about, to a point where they were ripping things apart and just throwing lines and lines of keyboards away, which can get quite scary. But as Joanne said, it was quite a strange process for all of us, because there's three guys working in the studio, all doing their own separate bits with headphones on. And we'd go into the studio and I'd be speaking to Joanne in the evening saying, did you hear anything today? And she'd go, no. Did you? No. And it was, but when it did all come together, we were very, very happy with it.
So you went in there, you heard the music through the headphones while you were recording it, but they never let you hear how it ended up.
No,
Well, they were working on 3 different things themselves. It's the major difference in making music. When we started, you would go in with a producer who would stand up and say, you play bass, you do the drums, you do the singing. And he'd stand there and listen. Now you get 3 guys hunched over computers, and that's it. It's a totally different process.
Absolutely.
With the Pro Tools.
Absolutely.
that.
They are Pro Tools mad.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you guys embrace Pro Tools.
I don't. I leave them to do it. I like synthesizers. I like analog synthesizers.
But do you like the new way of recording?
I don't like recording.
Oh, you don't?
I like the noises that come out of synths, but as soon as it gets to a mixing desk or a computer, I turn off.
Oh, okay.
I don't care about the hi-hat, but that's my thing.
So you really do leave it to the producer then?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But we can't do it. We've tried to do it by producing it ourselves once before, and it was a bit of a disaster. We used
I don't care about the details. That's not my job. My job is tunes and lyrics.
Wow, you sound like every record producer's dream.
Yeah,
You know,
if
because
only.
usually everybody wants to get their hands in there and tell the other guy how to do his job.
Oh no, I can't spend a week, turning the hi-hat up and down. I just don't care. I'll know if it's wrong. If I walk in after a week and you're going, that spoiled the record, you can tell them. But
So then, now I noticed on this record that you were able to inject a very modern sonic landscape, but it's at the same time still stay the Human League.
Yeah.
Now, you give total credit to them for
Yes,
that.
yeah.
But you came to them with the songs, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So but the song, then your input has a lot to do with it too.
Well, also we had the same joy of old synths.
Okay.
I think the thing that it relates to is like people in America loving their Harley Davidsons, and I love old synths.
You did a lot of the stuff on the synths, didn't you?
Oh yeah, but then they all mangled
We sort
it.
of exaggerate a bit when we say we never hit, it's like we didn't not hear the album until it was finished or anything like that, but it was just funny going in there and they'd all be sat listening to something different.
Yeah.
So I noticed that there's a very low, it almost sounds like a Moog bass that you've got going on. Did you use any Moog keyboards or basses on?
There's a little bit of Moog on it because Dave Clayton, one of Toys, got Moogs. We couldn't get on with Moogs, and we couldn't afford them, to tell you the truth. We often use Oberheims.
Okay.
One of my
and they'll
favourites.
still get that.
Oh yeah. As long as it's not digital, I like it. Yeah.
Cool.
Old stuff.
Yeah, I like the old sound too. But still, when you put the CD on, everything sounds clear and crisp and just very modern.
They were great.
That was the joy that
Yeah.
they were good. That was what they were great.
I mean,
at.
I think it's the album that sums us up. It's really funny all these years, and people love Daring Things, but I can see what's wrong with it. Secrets, I think, is just how many tracks of us? 18, 19?
We got the best reviews for our career in Britain. We've never ever had such great reviews in magazines and things, but no one would play it on the radio.
Yeah.
We don't fit into anybody's demographic at home, apparently. We're too trendy to go on Radio 2, but we're too uncool to go on Radio 1. So we're a bit stuck in the middle somewhere, which is quite, because of how radios run in our country, it's, if you're an established group like us and you're still making modern music, they just don't know what to do with you. They have no idea, so they don't do anything.
But to be fair, it's become a young person's game in Britain, hasn't it? You don't get signed if you're over 22.
Yeah, it
Full stop.
really has everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think the media feeds into that.
But the great thing about America is that America will turn around and go, Carlos Santana, yes. He's good.
Well, thank God Clive Davis made that decision to put money and time into him.
Absolutely, and get a fantastic album about. Well, there is none of that in Britain at the moment. I think we're having a little hard time, and it might turn all right. But music in Britain is not good.
Simon Cowell has a lot to answer for.
Okay, so what inspired the song Shameless?
I think that Shameless was a bit of an attempt to do a Pet Shop Boys song. I've always really liked the Pet Shop Boys, and my best friend who's not in the group works with the Pet Shop Boys, and it was one of those sort of big torch songs.
The man in the song is being tempted into something that he doesn't really want to be a part of, but at the same time he's giving himself over to it.
It is absolutely like that. Yeah, it was just that Well, part of it was that I think I was a bit miserable when we started the album, and we ended up with several quite sad songs, and we had to leave them out, and that's one of the sadder ones that got left in.
You play with two different emotions in this album.
I didn't want to end up with too miserable an album. At one stage it looked like it was going to be really miserable. I was going through one of those periods, and as we were making the album I said, no, we've got to do some happy songs as well. So I'm quite proud of the sad songs, but I want people to have a variety.
So now Reproduction and Travelogue and Dare were remastered last year, I believe it was?
Yeah.
Okay, now have you guys sat down and listened to those, and how involved were you in the remastering process?
We weren't really involved. I've listened to the first one, which I think is a vast improvement, and I just haven't had time to go from the second. I mean, the interesting thing that's happening in Britain at the moment is there's a guy using loops of our old stuff.
Okay.
Putting R&B vocals over the top, and he had a #3 hit about 3 months ago with Being Boiled, and right now he's having a hit with a song from Dare, which is part of the reason why we're doing the remix album in Britain. It's like there's a bizarre second generation of stuff that we used to do, and he's using stuff from that Reproduction Travelogue period.
Now, have you heard of a band called Ladytron?
Absolutely, seen them.
I think that they owe a lot to you guys.
I can't work it out. They remind me. Their remix is like Visage.
I think they're more like Duran Duran.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
But they're so much better live than on record. They're so solid live. You know, if they get a really good producer, they're going to be a big band.
Now, you guys are married, aren't you?
No.
No?
I'm married, but not to him.
Okay, well, the history books say that you got engaged.
I don't think we ever quite got engaged, did we?
No.
We lived together for 8 years.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that legally, by American standards, you would be considered engaged. I'm just kidding. Because 7 years, if you live with somebody 7 years out here, you can sue them.
Oh,
Right.
Oh.
So
Right, okay.
it's just a joke.
Right.
But, I mean, it's true though.
Joan's husband wouldn't let her sue me, I don't think. Joan's got a little boy as well.
He's 6. I've only got one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is he interested in music?
S Club.
Yeah, S Club 7.
Oh, S Club 7. That's very deep.
I don't think he'd know what they look like. He just likes playing it on the CD. And shouting reach for the stars.
What's it like juggling your music career and having a child?
It's really easy. I mean, when he was little, he just used to come everywhere with us. Now he's at school. My mum or my husband, sort of they juggle that side. I go off and have a party for a few weeks, then go home and just be a mum.
Well, he took his first steps and said his first word in America on tour with Culture Club.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
Yeah, he was on the bus with us, which was really nice.
How did you guys get to hang with Boy George at all? I would think you probably have known him forever.
Pass. We'll pass on that question.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. I haven't had a chance to hang out with Boy George yet.
Right.
But
I don't think you're missing that.
you don't?
He's all right.
He
He's
seems
all
like
right.
a colourful.
He believes his own publicity. I think that's the thing with George. He's a nice guy, actually, and the band are really nice people.
They're lovely. The band are really nice.
But it's like he's just had so much publicity that he thinks he's maybe a little bit better than everyone else.
Well, now what's next for you guys?
Finish off this tour over here, and then we go to Australia to do a tour at the beginning of November. That's just for 2 weeks, and then we've got 4 weeks touring around Britain at Christmas, and then Susan's going on holiday.
Shopping.
We've got sunshine. We've got a DVD coming out worldwide. I think about sometime in November or something, that's got all the videos on and everything. So the record company, the old record, Greatest Hits album, the old record company have been very, very positive, and they've been really, really helpful and stuff. So, and then we'll see what next year brings. The one thing that the Human League don't do is plan.
Okay.
Things just sort of evolve.
So I want to thank the Human League for being on the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Joanne.
Thank you.
Suzanne. All right, this is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with the Human League. Signing off. Bye-bye.
The Blairing Out Show.